What up, everybody? This is Jarreau coming at you with one of Jarreau's joints on behalf of That's What We Doing on YouTube. Please subscribe. This book I just read recently called Smoketown. I listened to the audio book. I know some people be like, well, you didn't actually read it, you just listened to it. Shut the fuck up. I got the information, all right? Smoketown. Smoketown is a book about the Renaissance in Pittsburgh in the Gilded Age, 1800s. I already knew there was a black Renaissance in Baltimore in the 1800s, or I don't know if it was considered a Renaissance, but I knew there was a black elite in the 1800s. And I only learned that recently. It's not something they teach us in schools. They act like we went straight from slavery to Jim Crow and civil rights and all that, like we was never winning, but that's just not the case. But it's an interesting book because it talks about like Jackie Robinson and how he came up the behind the scenes. It talks about the Negro League in general, how there was like petty infighting going on with all of that. It talks about numbers running. People that came from war and weren't treated, black soldiers weren't treated the same as white soldiers when they came back from war. So it just wasn't cool, man. But there was a lot of, Lena Horne, a lot of jazz musicians and stuff that came from Pittsburgh, and just like it really kind of lets you in on that scene. Joe Louis, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of stuff going on back then, and like, one of the really interesting things is how it talks about how we went from Republican to Democrat in that time period. But it's interesting because it kind of reflects what's going on now, like how the Democrats kind of play in our faces, and they, you got like Joe Biden saying wild shit like, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Like, I'll be damned if I have a white man tell me I'm not black because I don't vote for him. That's crazy. Back then, it was like, the Republicans kind of had us in their pocket because the Republicans with Abraham Lincoln set us free from slavery. But it's not like Abraham Lincoln was all about it. He was like, they should go back to Africa. And it's like, with what? Like, you got some gas money? Like, how are we supposed to get back there? Like, we didn't come over here by ourselves. What the fuck? Anyway, we transferred over to the Democratic Party. And it's a lot like now. It's like the Democrats are with us like now the same way the Republicans were with us then. Like, and I don't really give a fuck about politics, but I just think it's interesting how that whole thing plays out. Especially being, 200 years later, and it's still the same type of bullshit. So if you're into that type of thing, I've kind of gotten, I wouldn't say obsessed, but I've definitely gotten interested in that period. Like, I watched a show called The Gilded Age, and I saw these black people that were doing well, and it was like the 1800s. It was 1800s New York, and I was like, what's this? Is this a real thing? Because I never knew about it. And I started looking it up and finding things. There's a book called The Original Black Elites. That's about the black people in Baltimore that was doing well. This is how petty, in that book, this is how petty racism can be. There was a guy who had his children buried in a cemetery. 2 of his children died of like illness and stuff. And they were buried in this certain cemetery. Like, around 1900 is when the bullshit kicked back in. So they decided that's a whites only cemetery. Do you know they made this man dig his children up and put them in a black cemetery? That really happened. And I'm not saying this to rile nobody up. I'm just saying, like, the history is interesting. This is the history they don't teach you in school. So that's one of Jarreau's joints. I ain't gonna lie. Tasting this bamboo right now. Chasing this little bumble, so it's a little, if my words is a little unclear, that's what it is, but peep it out, check it out, and hope you enjoy it. Again, subscribe to That's What We Doing on YouTube.